maybe if you don't want to talk, you could just listen.
Alright gang, what is happening? What is happening? Wow. Great start right there. But hey, do you know what? Accidents happen. Right off the bat, that's a lesson for you to kind of refamiliarize yourself with if you need to. Accidents happen. Things don't always go according to plan, which is quite often the case here. In fact, there's kind of the modus operandi of the whole dimed out thing is things don't go according to plan. That should be our mission statement. More of which in today's episode. By the way, I am Mal Foster, if you didn't know, and I'm going to presume that you didn't, because, you know, most people don't. I'm not exactly on the front cover of Hello magazine, nor do I wish to be, or OK magazine, if that's still a thing. If any of these stupid things are still a thing, I'm not on the cover of them. I don't know if you get that in America, do you? I know that you have like your weird paper magazines with all the celebrity gossip and strange stories revolving around the royal family a lot of the time, it seems. And not just recently, but that's something I have noticed. I did notice in the before times, you know, when I used to go to supermarkets and stand in line to pay for stuff that I picked myself. Oh, that feels like a fading distant memory. But yeah, those are things that you presumably can still find in supermarkets, but I forget what the whole point of this was. I'm not appearing on those, so you don't know who I am, for the most part. Oh my days. Anyway, back on track. I am Mal Foster, for those of you who don't know, which we've already very firmly established is most people. And you, apart from being wonderful, are also listening to the latest episode of what presumably was your third favourite above average but infinitely curious podcast, Dimed Out. Season 2, episode 12, is thankfully for your ears a guest week, which means that you're not just going to hear me for the rest of however long this episode lasts. You're going to hear me chatting with a very special guest, and this week's special guest is the wonderful Kayla Spears. Kayla is the producer, the presenter, the editor, the uploader, the creator, the all-round wonderful mastermind behind Storytime with Kayla, a YouTube channel that is dedicated to reading children's books. But it's not just any old kids' books. It's not just run-of-the-mill, just here comes Harry the Hippo, he's gone for a lovely adventure kind of thing. I mean, those books are great, and I'm not throwing any shade at Harry the Hippo or any other anthropomorphic animals going on human-based adventures. All power to them. But the books that are specifically picked for Kayla's YouTube channel, Storytime with Kayla, are books with poise and poignancy and purpose. And let's be honest, when you dig into the content of what she's covering, a lot of these books have real power behind them too. Now granted, if you've been with the show for a little while, you might be thinking, this is a bit of a strange left turn for you, Mal. This is kind of uncharted territory for the show. You've never really touched upon anything like this before. And yeah, you're right, but this is a good thing, right? It's a good thing to keep yourself diverse, to keep yourself eclectic, and to give a platform for other people who are doing really good things. And that is the reason, outside of the fantastic books that Kayla's covering with Storytime, I wanted to use this platform to showcase her as a person. Because as you'll get from this conversation, she is incredibly charismatic, she's incredibly humble, and she's just also a really good soul. You know, like a really lovely person who is not only holding space, but creating space for people, giving people a chance to be seen and to be heard, and for young people to feel like they've been seen and heard. Yeah, I really strongly, heartily encourage you go check out Storytime with Kayla. You can find it on YouTube. There will be plenty of links to her YouTube channel and all of her social media stuff in the show notes for this episode, which, as always, you can find at dimed-out.com. But in the meantime, I'm just going to let the conversation speak for itself. So yeah, here we go. This is me talking to the wonderful Kayla Spears about Storytime with Kayla, about how she got started, finding your purpose in life, and a whole bunch of other things. So yeah, dig in, enjoy, and I will see you guys on the other side. Hello, Kayla. Welcome.
Hello.
So, first and foremost, thank you for taking the time to sit down and chat with me a little bit.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You are absolutely welcome. It's funny because you were one of the people that I found on Instagram, but I could not tell you how. It's one of those things like I obviously found your account somehow, probably searching through one of the hashtags I've used or one of the topics I've talked about at some point, and through the magic of the internet,
Hmm.
I've found you in your account and then just kind of become a big fan. But before we get into that any further, what is story time with Kayla?
Story time with Kayla. It's a YouTube show that really focuses on the power of literacy and really the power of diversity and inclusion. I like to read any and all books, but I really like to showcase and feature books that are diverse and they're from diverse authors and just give everyone a voice, you know?
That's the thing that made me want to get you on the. That's like for me, that was the hook that kind of got me watching, kept me watching, and was like, this is somebody that I'd like to talk to for that. And we're going to touch on that in a little bit. So, how long have you been doing story time, and how did you actually get started with it? Like, what was the thing that made you want to do it in the first place?
Yeah, so way back in 2018, so I'm, in my 20s, I'm 26. And so I was scrolling on Facebook one day, and I'm at the age where all my peers and my friends, they're getting married, having kids, and
Hmm.
everything. And so I was scrolling on my Facebook page, and I was like, there are like so many babies on my timeline, like, toddlers. And I was like, there are so many. And I just felt this like strong, like I should be doing something. Like I've always said, oh, if I had $1 million, I would definitely like build a center and donate to this and
Hmm.
donate to that. Well, I don't have $1 million. I was like, I could do something positive, for the community, or just even if it's just my friends on Facebook. I could have a story time for them because I know I can't sing and I know I can't act. So I could read books and try and get them kids to be excited about reading, because actually when I was growing up I hated
Hmm.
reading. You cannot get me to pick up a book, and if you were able to, you should you should be proud of yourself because I hated reading. And actually it wasn't until I got into college when I found out I was dyslexic, so that's probably why I hated
uh,
reading. But going back, I typed a message on Facebook and was saying to all my Facebook friends with kids, would you all be interested if I had like a weekly story time where we maybe sung some songs, maybe did baby sign language, things like that? And I got a good response from that. So I was like, okay, what's the day out the week where I could start like going live every week and have a
hmm.
story time? And I decided Mondays at 6:45. And for like, I believe like a year straight, I was going live every. At first, it was Monday, then it was Sunday. At 6:45, I will host a weekly story time, and everyone could just tune in live while I read them a story. I'll give them a shout out, and then after so many people telling me and telling me you should put it on YouTube, you should just like put these videos on YouTube, just read to YouTube. And so after a year of doing Facebook Live, I moved to YouTube in 2019, and then that's when things just it's just been going up from there. I always love when I get to say how I started because it truly has been unbelievable. Something that I've never could have imagined would have taken me where it is today.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was just a basic Facebook post that I made, from me seeing so many of my peers having kids and stuff. And yeah, I never would have imagined from 2018 it turning into what it is today. So yeah.
It's, I mean, it's incredible that it has grown from that, from you just, as you say, putting out a general inquiry on Facebook based on
Hmm.
something that you'd noticed, to people obviously kind of taking that as something they could use and implement, something that they would be interested in, and presumably their kids would be interested in,
Exactly.
and then growing that for a year,
Yes.
and then from that support, then I'm presuming it's from the support and from the enjoyment that no doubt you got doing the live videos,
Yes.
that then made you go, okay, yeah, maybe these guys have got a point. I'm feeling, as I say, like a swell of support here. I'm feeling that people are into this. Let's try and move it up a gear.
Exactly. Exactly. And man, I just can't stress enough. I just never would have imagined that.
It's interesting that you said that you never really had an interest in reading, because I don't know why. I think just maybe because of the energy and the sort of passion that you obviously have, which just is instantaneous. The moment you start watching your content, you feel like this is somebody that is loving what they're doing. And look, I know that whenever you make something, as I'm sure you're well aware, there are times where you're just like, there are days where you're just like, oh, this is such a pain, this isn't working, why is this just not like clicking? But for the most part, you do love it, and you can tell that watching your stuff that
Yes.
you love it. But I just would have assumed this is somebody that's loved reading all their life. That's kind
No.
of interesting curve.
That's like the surprise there. but
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
believe me, I'm human too. I definitely, especially when I was starting out from the beginning, I definitely, had those moments like, why am I doing this? Because, of course, like
Hmm.
any time, you'll have really successful days where you have like, I don't know, 15 people join your little story time session. And then there's other times when you're literally talking to your best friend's mom because she's the only one who joined that night.
Yeah.
And, I'm human too. And I have my doubts and you're like, oh, I wish I had this number of subscribers. But I always have to tell myself, okay, but why did you start doing this? Why did you start story
Hmm.
time with Kayla? It wasn't for the numbers. The purpose was really to get a child to pick up a book and want to read, changing that mind,
Yeah.
showing how powerful literacy and showing kids, and especially kids of color, that they are beautiful, that they, everything about them is just as beautiful.
Hmm.
Every time I go back to that little mission statement, I'm always like, okay, girl, what would you complaining for? Just keep doing what you're doing.
Is that something that you feel sort of anchors you when perhaps you are having a bad day, or you kind of just you kind of maybe doubting yourself? Is you just go back to your, as you say, your mission statement? I like that mission
Yeah.
statement. Why are you doing this thing to begin
Yes.
with?
And, I really think everyone should have a mission statement because I'm big on like reflecting back on things.
Hmm.
And going back to, if you have a mission statement, like maybe just a life mission statement, like in life, you want to serve people, you want to help people, or your mission statement
Yeah.
is you want to hear people, use your platform to share other stories. Definitely make a mission statement for yourself because it will definitely reground you, especially when you're having those days like, ugh.
Yeah. Which we all do. It's interesting because I was talking to somebody, a previous guest actually, Danny Longo, who's a mindset coach. We were talking about a sense of purpose, and she put forward the question to me, "What do you think your purpose is?" And it was a question I just couldn't answer right on the spot because I was like, "That is a big
That
question."
is.
But she said to me something that helps break it down and gives you something to think about, and that's, what do you like about yourself? What do you think you are good at? And what from those things do you feel you can use to contribute to something other than yourself? And you kind of find yourself, maybe, if you're unsure, moving a little bit further towards your purpose, which I liked a lot.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit, it makes a big question a little bit easier to kind of to tackle. I
Right.
have to ask Kayla, because I wrote in my show notes here, do you have a background in teaching at all?
I do.
You do. See, because the thing is, if you said no, I was going to be like, okay, that's maybe something that you should consider. As I say, the energy and the genuine enthusiasm that you have that comes through your content, it really strikes me as these are all the qualities that if I were a child or a parent with a child, I would want to see in a teacher. So it just kind of made me wonder, is that something that's in your background?
Yes. So I went to school. My original, what I have hold my degree in, I have a
Mhm.
BA in exercise, sports science, and dance. So when I graduated, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be like a PE teacher, a gym teacher, or I'm going to work at, like a center teaching gymnastics or something. Well, part of that was true. I did work at a center. I did teach some of the gym classes, but it was a children's enrichment school, so it was a preschool and an enrichment center. And so I
Mm.
was on the twos classroom during the day, and then in the afternoons slash evenings, I was on the gym and enrichment classes. So yeah.
Just to kind of clarify for me a little bit, and for anybody else that might be wondering, what exactly is an enrichment center? I have an sort of shell of an idea, but how would you describe an enrichment center?
It was like where you can your kids could take gymnastic classes, or they could take art classes or cooking classes, karate, kind of like a place for those extracurricular activities for kids, except it was in one spot. And it was for younger kids too. Really, our oldest age rangers was around 7 and under, because we also offered like baby classes, like mommy and me, daddy and me classes. So we even had babies that were around, I think, 8 months old.
Wow.
But yes, or a little younger too. I taught those classes too. And from that job, I have learned so much. But it wasn't from that job I learned I'm really good with kids. Like, I really have a way somehow, like, I guess it's because I'm like a little childish, because like I love to play with toys and stuff. That's probably why too. But it wasn't until my nephew was born that's when I realized, like, coming over to babysit him, or just, come over to hang with them. That's when I learned, oh, I should be working with kids. I just felt a big push that I should be working with kids, or teaching, or a children's entertainment, something,
Mhm.
something along. I just felt it.
A lot of people know from an early age what they want to do, and then there are also a number of people that just kind of find what they're meant to do, or what they possess that could be translated into something really cool. And it sounds like kind of in the latter there, where you've kind of found through these various things, through going your teaching background, the enrichment center, and then, as you say, spending time with your nephew, that these things have kind of cultivated and clicked into place.
Absolutely. Yes, because really, my when I was a freshman in college, nowhere near was I going to graduate. I went for school for biology because I wanted to be a fertility specialist. That's what I wanted
Uh-huh.
to do. And I graduated with something completely different, something that I was supposed to graduate with and supposed to learn, and you know.
But I think that's like, I think the more we can reinforce that, and the more we can quote unquote normalize that, the better. Because I think
Mhm.
that becomes, especially more with young people coming up now, there's a sort of external sense of pressure of, oh, you need to know what you're supposed to be doing. You need to know what you want to do.
Exactly.
And it doesn't always work that way.
It doesn't.
And if it does, that's amazing. But if it doesn't,
Right.
it's perfectly fine.
Exactly.
You will find through experience, through interactions, through just circumstance and life unfolding, that you'll get to where you want to be.
Exactly. Like my sister, we're twins. When we went to school, we went to the same college and everything. She knew exactly what she wanted to be, a econ major, economics. She did it all 4 years. Me, I literally switched my major 5 times in school, and like, like, I'm for real, I did, and I ended up with and I graduated on time. And that's another thing. It doesn't matter if you start school and then stop, or if you go through all 4 years, or if you have to do an extra year. It's your life, no one else's. So if you're fine with it,
Exactly, and I think that's definitely something that I would love to put forward and have people just
Hmm.
echo more. Is that it is your life, you know, it unfolds the way it does for you, and however it goes is perfectly fine.
Exactly.
So yeah, I want to get into the content of your channel and the content of the books that you do feature. As I said, for me that was a huge hook because outside of your energy and your enthusiasm, I was just, yeah, really kind of struck by the content of the books. I don't have children, and it's been a while since I was actually a child. Still, mentally, I'm very much there, and probably will be for the rest of time. But
Same here.
I don't remember as a kid reading books that had, and I mean, I'm sure they will have touched upon certain subjects and stuff, and it's not a particularly new thing, but it's a lot more expensive, it seems now. Children's books which are covering a whole number of what I would say are extremely important topics, like societal issues, issues
Hmm.
kids may be facing at home and school, ideas of self love, acceptance, progression, and positivity,
Yes.
accepting who you are, where you come from, your culture, your heritage, your background, but also that of other people's. And just that really struck a chord with me because, as I say, I don't remember having those kind of books as a kid
Yeah, I don't either.
in the way that society is changing now. I feel like that is a real important thing to have within kids literature, kids books, and to kind of encourage them to read that and to kind of be able to explore topics like that with children. Was that always something that you wanted to focus on?
Yes, it definitely was because one of the things, if you notice, when I do my story times, the way I hold the book is usually the POV, the point of view, area of
Hmm.
view. And I do it because I want who's ever reading to see my arms specifically, you know. I want them to see, oh, a brown arm. So if there is a little black girl, a black boy, or brown girl, brown boy, they can see maybe that's their arm,
Right.
reading a book. It matches with the themes of the books that I read. And I also do I like to wear my natural hair to show those boys and girls that your hair looks like this, and there's a lady on my tablet who hair looks like mine. And I'm not sure if that answered the question,
No,
but
it does, and it kind of reinforces the ideas that I had anyway. Because to me, it seems very much, and this is all just speculative, but to me, it seems very much that identification is a real important thing from your channel.
yeah.
You know, it seems to me that is a driving force behind story time is the idea that kids watching and parents with kids who are watching, going through these stories, get a sense of identification that they feel themselves being seen, they recognize things, and they can sort of connect with the material a lot more.
Exactly. And like that's, one of the big things that I really want to focus on. That's kind of why I wanted to do something a little different with my story time because libraries all around have story time. There's other storytellers, but I wanted to read books that I can see myself on. Like there's some fun animal books out there, but I'm not a chicken, I'm not an elephant. I love having natural hair. I want to read a book about having natural hair. Natural black hair.
I think that it's a really interesting point that you bring about, that there is a human focus to the stories within your books. I mean, as you say, there's some cracking animal books out there, but the people watching your videos, the people that are watching your videos with their kids, they're human, and a lot of these things are dealing with specific issues, but human issues, and the idea
Mhm.
of identifying and being able to relate, or being able to, and this is one thing that I really like about, I'm trying to find um the I forget the name of the author. I think it's Letitia White, and the book is I Didn't Leave Because of You.
Mhm.
That to me struck a major chord in the sense that that is a deep issue.
Very deep.
Yeah, but yet it's done in a way that doesn't skim over the issue. It doesn't sugarcoat it.
Right? Exact. It was done rhyming too, I believe, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
A lot of kids who will be experiencing that and will have so many questions and will just inherently put the blame on themselves for no reason. To
Mhm.
me, and this is me speaking personally, I grew up without a father who I
Mhm.
didn't particularly know, and for
Mhm.
years afterwards kind of blamed myself
Mm.
unnecessarily. And I just think for the kids that are in that situation, to have something like that, to have something like that out there, and to have something like that put further out there through you reading it is amazing,
Exactly.
because it's showing them this is tough. This is tough what you're going through. And that's the case with a number of issues that you covered with some of your books featured. These are tough issues, but here's a way to approach it. Here's a way to make it a
Exactly.
little bit easier to understand. And I love that.
And it shows that they're not alone too. And books like those, those heavy subjects, I'm sure back when we were younger, you probably only find books like that in a counselor's office,
Right.
at some
Yeah.
doctor. But like the fact that books like those are one, not only available, like on YouTube from other storytellers, but two, like on demand. There's really a book almost about any and everything out there, and it's really all at the click of our fingertips, or however that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's the like that is a really interesting point. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah,
mhm,
topics like that within book form, yeah, you would find in counselors' offices or doctors. Yeah, that's
exactly. And even though these are, titled children's books, really they, like you said, they can help even adults,
hmm
because sometimes we need to, as adults, we need to step down and kind of we complicate everything, and sometimes we need I don't not dumb it down, but just take it down a notch and to really like understand something, and something as easy as I didn't leave because of you, making it as simple yet is so powerful, could really change someone's perspective.
So you've just reached your 2 year mark, is that correct? From the YouTube channel.
Yes. Yep.
How has that been as a whole, the 2 years?
That has been it has how has it been? It has definitely just like it's been good, That's what I can say right now.
Right.
It's been very, very just good. I'm happy with the way it's been going because when people were saying you should go to YouTube, I was like, yeah, I'm not really going.
Were you a bit skeptical about that at
Yeah,
first?
I was like, no one's going to watch me on YouTube, but you know, I'm very thankful I was wrong,
Yeah.
and I'm glad I did listen and move to YouTube. And you never know who you might meet and what you do because
Mhm.
from switching over to YouTube, and especially since this past year with the whole pandemic and everything, and since everyone was stuck inside, I've met so many storytelling friends from all over different cities, different states, different countries, and you just never know who you might meet,
Mhm.
and we're all basically adults doing storytelling for kids, and which is pretty cool because you could act your goofy self. You don't have to like be serious
Right,
when
you
we
feel like
talk.
you're in good company because you're in with like-minded people.
Exactly.
You touched upon something interesting there. Obviously, we have been through a full year of COVID era with everybody sort of staying home a lot more. Um,
Hmm.
how has that kind of been for your second year of doing the channel? Do you feel like you've had more engagement, more response from people?
Yes. So since the pandemic, and it's kind of bittersweet because there was so many families affected. Well, there still
Yeah.
are so many
Yeah,
families
sure.
affected and stuff. But Storytime really, took off because of the pandemic. I reached 1,000 subscribers. I can't remember. I think last month or no, 2 months ago. And then, but all 2020, I've received, it was nothing but author submissions coming in. And most of the
Mhm.
books that I read last year were from authors. So I was able to meet, well, virtually meet lots of
Yeah.
authors and, like I said, different storytellers. And even though something bad had to happen, something as bad as COVID, a whole pandemic shutting the whole world down had to happen, is bittersweet because it was helping something beautiful grow, helping my
Right.
storytelling grow into what it is right now.
I imagine that's got to be extremely rewarding, knowing that, as you say, it has been really tough for everybody, and
Yes.
it varies in size and scale depending on who you're talking about. Some people have been affected far more than others, but just in general, having that constant source of engagement of the content, and knowing that's reaching people that are going through hard times must have kind of given you a real sense of like genuine personal reward.
I often say, I really think this is what I was supposed to do. I thought I was
Hmm.
going to do something else. I thought this, I thought that. But with my whole story time, I'm really like, I really think this is what I was put on this earth to do, to literally tell stories and share my platform with authors who, may not have a voice because they're self-published or because they just aren't published with a major publishing company. And
Hmm.
so yeah, it definitely is rewarding when I get to see like fan mail of kids, watching me on the TV, or just seeing how happy authors get when I read their books. Because really, to me, really, I'm like, I'm just reading the book. It's not really that big a deal. I'm not even doing nothing special.
You say that, but you are, because you're putting like the inflection in it, and as I say, you're putting the energy and the enthusiasm in it. You're bringing these stories to life a little bit
Oh.
more, and I think people really gravitate towards that.
Oh, well, thank you. And it's funny because, like, I don't know. Like I say, I'm just a regular old Joe from Chicago reading stories.
On the topic of authors, at the time of recording this, your latest video that you've just put out, I think about a day or two ago, is "The Girl Who Became the Change" by Chloe Thompson.
Yeah.
Now, I want listeners to dig into this, not only to check out the video, but to dig into the story of Chloe Thompson, 13-year-old author and philanthropist. I think I said that right, Kayla, but I'm terrible with pronouncing
Oh,
words,
it's
so who
okay. It took
knows?
philanthropist took me a couple of times saying it on the
Yeah,
video.
I can imagine. I'm not even sure I got it right on that one, but we'll go with it. I think people know what we mean. That's amazing. Like,
Hmm.
like that's just jaw dropping. 13-year-old
Really.
children's author and a philanthropist
Hmm.
is incredible. How did Chloe come onto your radar? How did she come to your attention?
It was actually, she reached out to me. Yeah,
Hmm.
to have me on her show that she has on YouTube. I think it's,
I was going to say she's not doing a
I can't
podcast, is she?
remember the
Because like
name.
I can't compete
No.
with her level of productivity. Oof, okay, that's all right.
And she interviews adults and kids, like kid entrepreneurs and kid, bosses and things like that. And then also authors and children's entertainer adults and things
Mhm.
like that. Yeah, that's how we found each other. And then she actually recently published that book. And so, she reached out and said, "Hey, can I send you my book?"
The story is incredible, and I really do. I mean, I encourage everybody listening to go check out Story Time with Kayla regardless, but like that
Yes,
video in
please.
that video in particular, that story is like, it kind of gave me a bit of a boost in my faith in humanity, Because I won't lie, Kayla, the last year it's kind of it's waned a little bit, you know.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
it's little things like that where it kind of just gives you that spark to be like, do you know what? There is still a lot of good out there. And
Exactly.
that's one of the things that I actually also really like about the content you cover is that it does kind of give that spark back a little bit.
Yeah, and really, me doing story time, I want to give those authors those voices. Like I'm all about sharing.
Hmm.
In my terms, I call it if I'm eating, everybody eating. No matter if they have 100,000 followers or if they just have like 10, I want them to use my platform that really I can't even say I've created, because my entire K crew, everyone who gives me a single like, everyone who gives a single share, is part of my K crew, and they're the ones who really help turn what I have today into the platform that it is today.
All right, I've got a question here, which I don't know if you'll be able to answer or not, because it's a pretty tough one. And you've obviously not seen any of the things I'm going to ask you beforehand, but I'll ask it anyway, and we'll see what we get. What have you
Yeah.
learned about yourself, or just what have you learned in general since starting story time with Kayla?
That I can definitely do things I thought I never could do. That's what I've learned. I've learned to never, like, oh, that'll never be me, or I can't do that. Like, I've learned to not say that, because learning how to edit on my own, learning how to upload things, learning what angles to take a good picture at, learning different microphones and technology, things that I never would have thought I could do. That's what I learned. That, like, girl, what are you doing?
So
Stop.
you've sort of taught yourself all the back end and production stuff as you've gone along.
Yes,
That's crazy.
absolutely.
Wow.
And oh my goodness, if you scroll, I really want to take my like first videos out. If you could just see the difference, you'll be like, oh my goodness, she has come a long way. You'll be like, oh, okay. Well, we won't watch that one again, but we like the newer one. I will say what I've learned, I've definitely learned a lot. I've learned some of everything.
Hmm.
Definitely.
I like that main thing though, that you can do things, and I feel and I see that reflected in the books that you choose and in the content that you present. This idea of self belief, that seems to be a real sort of strong cornerstone, I think, for what you're doing. Is that fair to say? The idea of self
Yeah,
belief.
absolutely. And that goes to everything. Everything you do in life. If you don't believe in yourself, and if you don't think you can do it, who's gonna
Who else
who do
will?
you expect to? Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely fair to say.
All right, Kayla. Before we go, where can people find your wonderful work, and where can they become a member of the K Crew?
Yes. So you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at storyteller_K. And then you can find all my readings and just have a good time with everything on YouTube, Storytime with Kayla. And I hope you can subscribe and tell your friends, tell your mom, your dad, your cousins, your pastor, just tell everybody that you know. And watch some stories and comment, tell me how you like it, how you like the reading. And yeah, there's something for everyone out there.
Awesome. I've got a favor to ask before we go, Kayla. Can I get the
Yeah,
outro from your video? Because I've become completely enamored with both your intro and your outro, and I feel it's only fitting if
sure.
we get the outro for this.
We definitely can.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Goodbye, 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 my friends. Goodbye to you. I hope to see you again real soon. Be proud of all your work tonight. Now climb into bed and sleep real tight. On the count of 3, let's say goodnight. 1, 2, 3. Good night.
Yay!
And it's funny because remember I said I'm not a singer or an
Yeah.
actor, and I sing every video.
Alright, gang, so there you go. That was me chatting with the lovely, wonderful Kayla Spears. As she mentioned, you can find her on Twitter, Instagram, and more importantly, YouTube, where you can go check out all of her videos and support the wonderful work she's doing over there. If you want to support the wonderful work, I say wonderful, the work, I'll be a little bit more modest. If you want to support what we're doing here at Dimed Out, then the simplest way to do so, if you haven't done it already, is simply to subscribe. We are available on your favourite podcast platform. We're available pretty much anywhere. We're kind of easy like that. If you do that, not only are you supporting the show, but you are also ensuring that you get every single episode following this one straight to your device of choosing without having to lift a finger. So everybody wins. If you want to support us a little bit more, if you want to take the optional route, get some bonus juicy content in the process, we do have a Patreon, as I like to sort of shamelessly plug at the end of each episode. You can find that at patreon.com/dimed out. One single tier for $5, you get a whole bunch of extras. Go check that out at patreon.com/dimed out if you want to. You don't have to, but it's there, as an option. So, we only really have a few more episodes left in Season 2. We are coming pretty rapidly to a close. And next week's episode is... it's not a guest week, but it is going to be hopefully an interesting week. So, what we're doing is we are going from story time with Kayla to story time with me. And to sort of explain that a little bit further, I recently, whilst looking for the synopsis for a short story that I started working on some time ago, came across a project that I abandoned 5 years ago now. Yeah, wow, how time has flown. The project in question is called From the Outside Looking In, and it was supposed to be a travel memoir of sorts based on my initial trip to the United States back in 2015. Yeah, it's just baking my noodle to even think about that, to think that it was that long ago, but at the same time it doesn't feel that long ago. Anyway, this was a travel memoir that I was writing based on that initial trip. Each section was going to be dedicated to each place that I visited, but I only got as far as Florida, I think. So New York I finished the first draft for, and I was in the midst of Florida about halfway through. So here's what I'm proposing. I have not looked at this thing for 4.5 to maybe 5 years. I had, as I say, completely forgotten this thing even existed until I just randomly discovered it in a hidden folder on my hard drive. And I haven't really looked at it. I've looked at one paragraph, and it was kind of cringy. The amount of purple prose in that thing is shameful. I like to think that I have developed as a writer. In fact, you know what? I'm going to give myself credit here. I'm going to give myself some credit. I have developed as a writer. Even in the last 6 months, I can see how my writing has got a lot better. So I can only imagine what it was like 4.5 to 5 years ago. Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to digging into this, but I'm also very apprehensive because there's going to be a lot of cringe. I'm just going to level with you. There's going to be a lot of cringe, but there may be also some glorious insight. I really don't know what to expect other than those possibilities. But that's what we're doing next week. I am going to be reading in an audiobook style, I guess, the New York section of my ill-fated, never-finished first draft travel memoir. So yeah, that's what you've got to look forward to, I guess. And I really am wrapping that in big, juicy quotation marks, because I'm not even really looking forward to it. But it should be interesting, right? And if you can't be anything else, at least try and be interesting, I guess, said nobody ever. And on that note, that is for next week. As for this week, we're pretty much done. And by pretty much, I mean we are actually done. This is the end of the show. As always, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the continued support, by the way, which has got us to our first milestone, which is definitely worth celebrating, I think you'll agree. We just recently hit 1,000 downloads, so I'm just going to give myself a tiny, tiny round of applause. Trying to remain modest, trying to keep my humble status as golden as it always has been. I mean, I will say one thing about myself. I'm probably the most humble person in the room anytime I enter a room. So I'm trying to keep that, I'm trying to stay grounded. But yeah, 1,000 downloads. Not too bad, huh? Not too bad for something I just concocted in my library 10 months ago and have been plugging away at ever since. And yeah, it's all because of you guys. It's all because of anybody that has taken the time to listen, to like, to share, to comment, to really get involved. Like Kayla was saying, this is not a platform that I've made. It's a platform that we've made. And as we move forward, we're only going to build it stronger, better, harder, faster. Oh, that just reminds me about Daft Punk. Now I'm a little bit sad. Anyway, thank you is what I'm trying to say. A big, big, sincere thank you. Yeah, for real. Look after yourself, guys. Look after each other. And until next week, keep it timed out.